Hey folks, welcome to Bullets and Brass. Welcome back and thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully you are subscribed. Hopefully you're hitting the thumbs up button, but whatever. Can't make you. Please do though. Anyway, today we're doing 6.5 Grendel versus 300 Blackout, and the focus is going to be on supersonic. If you're trying to go subsonic, particularly suppressed subsonic with a short barrel, doing one of those really fun 300 Blackout style builds, there's no equivalent with 6.5. There just isn't. So that is 100% in the 300 Blackout category. It wins. If you're shooting for a hunting cartridge, a short to medium range cartridge for self-defense, now it gets fuzzier because you have two cartridges that ballistically are very similar but come at it a little differently. So as you can see here, we have the two cartridges, two bullets. This is a 120 grain, and this is a 110 grain. Now obviously this is the 6.5, and this is the 30 caliber. But you can see there's a huge difference in the length of those bullets. Now this is a soft tip and this is a ballistic tip, so there's a little difference there too. But the 6.5 is going to be a longer bullet. Now, ballistically, that helps. That gives you a little bit of an advantage. It also means that for a given pressure, you can get a better velocity. If you're doing a 30 caliber, it just takes a little more. So just to run some numbers here, and I'm gonna give you the numbers for 6.5. Remember Grendel, not Creedmoor. From the test barrels first, and then we'll compare apples to apples. So from the test barrel, that 120 grain bullet is doing 2,700 feet per second out of the barrel. Okay, that's a standard load from Hornady. Muzzle energy of 1,942 foot-pounds. At 300 yards, it's still almost 1,200 foot-pounds of energy. And if you do 200 yard zero, which in both cases that's what we're talking here, it's only an 8.7 inch drop. So ballistically, that's pretty good for an AR platform. Certainly beats 223 completely. Different calibers, a little different, but it's definitely a contender for a mid-range deer cartridge, short to medium range deer cartridge, hogs, self-defense, coyotes, anything in that size range. Great round. No questions. The 12.5 inch barrel numbers aren't quite so rosy, but are still good. 2,300 feet per second, 2,308 to be specific, and 1,420 for the muzzle energy. Now I don't have 300 yard energy for that, but you can punch that into a calculator. This is the 120 grain SST bullet, not this ELD that's sitting here. So that was the Hornady SST bullet. It's actually 123 grain. Take your pick. I've seen different numbers for different loads. I've seen different numbers from different people from the same barrel with the same load. Atmospherics, different chronometers, or chronographs. Sorry, not chronometers. It's not a watch. So, you got to round the numbers. But still, 1,420 for muzzle energy, right? Well, 300 Blackout with the 110 grain bullet. This is the Barnes TAC TX bullet. So the popular self-defense and hunting load. 1,349 for muzzle energy. So it's a little lower for the muzzle energy. And actually going a little faster because remember it's a little lighter. So it's going 2,350 feet per second out of a short barrel. Not super short, but it doesn't have to be a 24-inch barrel like that 6.5 Grendel test barrel. You're going to retain most of that as the barrel shortens, unlike the drastic loss you had with 6.5. But still not quite there, right? But it retains it better. And I've got something fishy. Okay, back. Sorry about that. Had to go check my numbers because something was really wrong. So at 300 yards, the 300 Blackout is down to 633 foot-pounds of energy. 633 versus 1193 or almost 1200. So you've lost a lot of that power that it had. But remember, that's out of a shorter barrel. So comparing apples to apples, you are probably seeing 900, 800 out of the 12.5 inch barrel, and about the same from the 300 Blackout in terms of the 633. So the gap isn't as big as it looks because when you start shortening that barrel, you lose a lot of the 6.5 Grendel's velocity. Now, if you don't shorten the barrel, certainly it has the advantage, which is where it gets interesting. Because remember, the bullet weights are so comparable. It's not like comparing a 5.56 to a 300 Blackout, where the extra bullet mass kind of helps it maintain velocity and maintain energy as it goes down range. 6.5 Grendel's throwing similar weight bullets, and it's throwing them faster. So, if you're not shooting suppressed and aren't worried about the subsonic, 6.5 Grendel wins. It really does on the math. Now remember, that's just for the math, because we're going to get into the rest in a second here. But ballistically, I got to give it to the 6.5. Now, that kind of makes sense. 6.5 is ballistically almost always a better caliber. I don't know what the American love is for the 30 caliber. We just always have liked it. Europe has always gone 6.5 for a good reason. Ballistically, it is a more optimal caliber in terms of pressure needed to generate the appropriate velocity with the right bullet weights. 30 caliber works great when you scale it up and you're doing 30-06, 300 Weatherby Magnum, so on. Works great. So anyway, if you're doing short barrels, it starts to get closer. I'm still giving it a 6.5 Grendel until you go really short. You go under 12 inches, okay, now you're into 300 Blackout territory. But even at 16, if you're not suppressed, the muzzle flash from a 6.5 is going to be pretty severe. The noise is going to be pretty severe. If you don't care, power to you. You start going shorter than that, it's going to get rough. That concussive blast at the muzzle, the shockwave, the actual muzzle flash itself is going to get really bad from a 6.5. It just is. 300 Blackout isn't going to be as horrible and is going to be easier to suppress. You can run a smaller suppressor and still get a lot of results out of it. If you go very short, I think the 300 wins. Even ballistically, it holds up better. In terms of compatibility, you really got to give it to the 300 Blackout. Everything is the same except the barrel. Same mags, same bolt, everything, same everything. Just easy. But if you're building a game, a hunting rifle, and you're really not worried about a bunch of mags, you need a couple. And you don't care about replacing the bolt all the time. This is not going to be something you're playing with. Well, okay, you build the rifle, you get a matching bolt, you get a couple magazines for it, and you're not worried about high capacity magazines, particularly. You're not worried about the last couple rounds that you lose with 6.5. Oh well. Okay, it costs a little more than 300 Blackout would have, but you're actually going to save money on the ammo over time because the ammo will be cheaper. 6.5 Grendel is cheaper than 300 Blackout if you reload, if you buy cheap general purpose ammo, particularly with the Wolf ammo that's out now, and a couple other offerings out there. But the hunting ammo and self-defense ammo is going to be similarly priced. It seems to be roughly in the same ballpark. So if you shoot a lot with it, if you do anything extra with it, the cheap Wolf ammo is going to start eating away at the savings of the 300 Blackout in terms of that bolt and magazines. How long that takes depends on how much you shoot. If you don't care about the added expense of the extra magazines and the bolt, I mean, you're probably talking $100, right? Who cares then? It's $100 difference on a rifle you might spend $1,000 on, $2,000 even. If that's not a big deal, if that isn't relevant to your discussion, then 6.5 is still ahead. Now, I say all this as a fan of the 300 Blackout. I like the versatility on the 300 Blackout. I like being able to do supersonics 1 second, subsonics the next, and not have to change anything. I can literally alternate in my magazine supersonic, subsonic. But in terms of muzzle energy, in terms of downrange energy, it's hard to beat. 6.5 kind of has that niche. So much so that Serbia is using it for a new service cartridge. They are replacing their old service rifle with the same rifle in 6.5 Grendel. So look for ammo to get even more common, more inexpensive. I doubt we'll see surplus. It's only Serbia, meaning there isn't going to be a large mass market. Isn't NATO or widespread adoption elsewhere. But we may see some results from the fact that the special forces in the U.S. are adopting some 6.5 cartridge. If that actually goes through, which it looks like it is, 6.5 Grendel ammo could be a lot easier to get in a lot higher volumes at better pricing, which would make it even more attractive, particularly to average shooters like me who, you gotta balance out that extra cost and the hassle of having multiple magazines instead of just one standard magazine. Well, now it starts becoming more attractive. So that is it. 6.5 Grendel versus 300 Blackout. Take care, have fun, stay safe, y'all, and keep shooting, even though we just gonna see ammo go through the roof again and continue with the election. So what can you do? Don't shoot it all at once, guys. Save some for later. Say hi. Woof.